When I'm on my bike, I'm in a place where I can bring something and get something in return. In that respect, it's exactly like what I feel is the ideal library. A place not only to consume, but to work and create as well. Another analogy between cycling and libraries is the need to set out a course. Because libraries face major challenges. Although I do not believe that there is just one way we have to take in order to achieve the right solutions. We have to be honest to ourselves, and dare leaving behind the slow ones. It's not something I'm happy about, but it's time to be decisive. Finishing outside of the time limit puts you out of the game, but it doesn't mean the race is over. In 2012, I started with the project Frysklab, working at Bibliotheekservice Fryslân. And although I'm not trained as a librarian, I very much do feel like one. The project started in 2012, but I collected all the steps and confidence I needed unconsciously since 2003. And this afternoon, I would like you to join me in the personal steps I made to realize the project and about the project in particular. And I will close my talk with a small number of dreams I have. In 2003, I worked at the Frank Moore Institute, the Master of Fine Art course at Art Academy Minerva in Groningen. And there I met this guy. It's his artistic expression. It's Arthur Elsena. He was the new media professor. And in a session with his students, he dropped a little bomb. He asked them, who of you works with closed software? And obviously, most of the students raised their hand. And he said to them, well, from this moment on, no longer. And I quote, I expect from you that you have real ownership of your art. This also means that you must have control over the tools you use. And that's why I think that you should explore the possibilities of open source and how to make your own tools. And he asked them, do you think the classic painters also bought their paint in a store? And at the same time, he also offered his students guidance and support in learning how to code and learning how to work with computer hardware. And in the end, most students were perfectly capable of making their own tools, and in the whole process, made great progress in their artistry. And looking back on that, I learned two things. The first one being that initial resistance often can lead to something good. It's not something that's pretty all the time, but okay. And the second one being that the concept of open, being it open source, open access, are also key elements of maker culture. A couple of years later, I attended a conference in Amsterdam. And the keynote speaker over there was Lawrence Lessig. Lessig is the father of Creative Commons. Creative Commons is a flexible copyright tool that gives back actual ownership to the creators of content. And over there, he spoke about his concerns regarding youth culture and new forms of online expression versus restrictive copyright enforcement. And he did so during the kickoff conference of the concept of media literacy in the Netherlands. It was the first time that the Dutch government recognized that people needed to be informed about the challenges, but also about the opportunities of the internet, 2007. And when talking about media literacy, this is Lawrence Lessig. He's trying to run for president now in the United States. When talking about media literacy, he's putting it like this, and I quote, "In my view, the most significant thing to recognize about what this internet is doing is its opportunity to revive read-write culture. The importance is that technique has been democratized. These tools of creativity have become tools of speech. It's a literacy for this generation. This is how our kids think. This is how our kids speak. It is what your kids are, as they increasingly understand digital technologies and their relationship to themselves. A few years after this conference, I started working for the Frisian libraries. First at Leeuwarden Public Library as a music coordinator, music librarian, and a couple of years after that at Bibliotheekservice Fryslân. And it was also the time that I got to know the inspiring work of Cory Doctorow. He's actually using a Creative Commons license, so I can use this image of him. And what Doctorow does in his writings and in his talks, he's a novelist, he's a technology activist, also a former librarian. What he does in his work is talking about what Elsenaar and Lessig find important, but he also relates it to librarianship. And what he does after that is that he is connecting librarianship to maker culture. And he says about this, damn right, libraries shouldn't be book-lined internet cafes. They should be book-lined, computer-filled information dojos, where communities come together to teach each other black belt information literacy, where initiates work alongside novitiates to show them how to master the tools of the networked age from the bare metal up. And what Doctorow also made me realize is that librarians can do with a healthy dose of activism. And not only when budget cuts are at stake, but also when there's a debate going on regarding privacy, intellectual property, information access, digital civil rights. And this debate should be based on facts. So what newspaper The Correspondent is elevated to an art is essentially a legitimate task of libraries, fact-checking. And when I heard Doctorow talk about libraries and maker culture, and I started to read about some beautiful examples of American libraries who were setting up maker spaces in the library, it prompted me to share my idea with colleagues. An idea to realize a Frisian library makerspace. A makerspace as a place to put things together, make new things, meet new people, and share what you and others had to bring to the table. And the place should be hands-on, peer-to-peer, community-based, and open. And very important for me was the addition by my close colleague Bertus Douwes, who said that this Frisian library makerspace should be mobile. For if we wanted to reach young people, we had to be at the places they were at. Schools, libraries, festivals, all kinds of other events. And this Frisian library makerspace was Frysklab, a library truck, but not in the traditional sense. So we don't move books, but instead of those, we move digital fabrication machinery, 3D printers, laser cutters, electronics, design computers, programming software, all those kind of things. What doesn't change, however, is the need for physical persons. Being it a librarian, a maker, an educator, a volunteer. Our truck driver, our bus driver is a volunteer. He's having the time of his life. Because essentially, libraries and library makerspaces are about conversations. And in that sense, they differ nothing from the ancient library of Alexandria, which was in fact a marketplace where conversations happened. So, getting started sounds fairly easy. You see the truck, or you saw the truck. But the process to get this truck on the road turned out to be less simple as we thought it would be. Because where Elsenaar met reluctant students, we met a limited number of reluctant policymakers and also some library colleagues. Where is the book, they said. Or stick to your traditional task, whatever that may be. The book lending model is not our traditional task. But we had the feeling that we were on the right track. We just knew we were right. Also because we didn't set up this project for our own personal benefit. We only wanted to add to the innovative nature of Friesland. And we were initiating partnerships to make this work. So that means that Frysklab is as much about libraries as it is about education, innovation, and maker culture in Friesland. And about mobility in rural areas. And this last element isn't strange at all. The first library truck in the Netherlands drove in Friesland in the 1950s. And its main function was to enable people to read. Right now, we're doing the same. But we're enabling people to get acquainted with digital fabrication, and we are connecting those to a couple of local themes. Because every successful library, as any successful makerspace, is measured by its local relevance. So we are focusing on water, sustainability, and creative craftsmanship, and are combining those with maker culture. And what's also very important is that we don't teach people in our truck how the devices work, because the machinery changes all the time. Instead, we teach them why this is important to them, why it is important to learn about open source and open knowledge, and why it is important to be creative. Because every solution starts with great ideas. So therefore, the concept of design thinking is very important in the things we offer. But as I said earlier, we met some resistance. And in fact, this meant that we weren't allowed to spend any of our library budget to our project. We were in fact forbidden to do this project at all, because this wasn't about libraries, some people thought. But we persisted. We persisted in proving that we were on the right track. For us, it was like, if we can't turn left, we have to turn right. No mountain too high. So we went on. And we did so from within our professional library function, because we thought this is what we do. We don't want to be just a makerspace. We're a library makerspace. That's important. So we went on, unpaid, at least in euros, but we did get paid by lots of positive feedback. From September 2013 onwards, the time we got our truck, we managed to do roughly 200 activities, ranging from school and library visits to conferences and festivals. And I can assure you, nearly 80% of the time spent was personal time. So weekends, evenings, 3 days on the road and go. But this increased visibility, because we had our truck, which is yellow and it's all over the place, but also our presence on social media and our time spent on writing background articles, both in print and online, about the background of our project. Why did we do this? How did we justify what we were doing? Resulted in a lot of feedback. And this increased visibility would eventually pay off. Because last year, during a debate regarding libraries in Dutch Parliament, Minister Jet Bussemaker publicly stated that actually this project, the Frysklab project, was of course something that libraries should do. In fact, it was one of the best library projects he had seen in recent years. And suddenly, the provincial perspective changed. You know, from one day to the other, we heard that, of course, this project was something to be proud of, and it needed support. At that time, it felt a bit like a bittersweet victory, but right now, after it's settled a bit, we're very happy about it. This was a year ago. It took almost a year to get the actual money, but during this period, we went on. Maybe twice as hard as we did before that, because we're now a kind of free. We could now also do projects within our province without being worried about repercussions or... So it paid off. And we managed to do some great projects last year. What was very important to us was that we just drove to Florence, Italy, for instance. We were invited to join a library conference over there, and we thought, okay, up and down to Florence is nice, let's make the most of it. So we visited 8 countries in 12 days, 8 libraries and labs in 12 days, and engaged with them, find things out, exchanged information. It was a wonderful trip. The second project we did, or the second reward we got, was the fact that we were awarded with a library award last year for Best Library Innovation in the Netherlands. And the last thing I want to show you is that we're part of a national network of maker educators, maker education, look it up, it's going to be big, where public libraries are part of a new educational model. And actually, next week, State Secretary Sander Dekker will announce that we will receive money from the Ministry of Education to set up this project and bring maker education to schools in the Netherlands. And I am one of the 3 quartermasters to make this a reality. So, what does the future hold, and what are my dreams? Well, as of this school year, we can finally start doing what we had in mind in 2012. Visiting schools in Friesland and getting teenagers and children getting acquainted with digital fabrication and maker culture. And we plan to visit an annual minimum of 120 schools, and besides that, be available also to institutions, to libraries, and festivals. Sjoerd showed it. We did participate twice in Welcome to the Village, and it's awesome to be part of that little maker community in Leeuwarden. As you might know, the city of Barcelona last year announced that they want to be the first fab city in the world, which means that they want to be completely self-sufficient. And the city administration is supporting the setup of many fab labs in the city in order to achieve this. The city of Boston this year declared they want to be the second fab city in the world. My dream is that Friesland will be the first fab province in the world. The provincial administration should support the setup of labs in the province where every Frisian citizen can make use of these facilities in order to develop themselves personally, economically, or just want to play, because it all starts with play. And I think it would be great to announce this dream in 2018 when we host, hopefully, the International FabLab Conference in Leeuwarden. and call it FabLabs in rural communities. And I think it won't be a surprise to you that I think that libraries are vital to make this work. And I hope that libraries are not only seen as cultural institutions, but also as economic institutions. And we should be rewarded for that. So getting more money instead of less, because libraries are more important than ever. So I would like to invite you to help us realize this dream. And in reward, I promise you it will be an awesome ride. Thank you very much.
Well done, Jeroen.